Well, first of all, thank you for coming. And as you know, the topic today about preparing tomorrow's workforce is extremely important. Last month we had hefty discussion about this topic, and that's when we decided we needed to get Rhonda here. So I'm going to read this. It takes a little while because there's a lot to say about Rhonda. Rhonda serves as the Executive Director of the Ohio Oil and Gas Energy Education Program and the Ohio Oil and Gas Energy Education Foundation. Ms. Reda helped form the organization in 1997. Prior to OOGEEP, Ms. Reda served as Vice President, Internal Affairs and Public Information for the Ohio Oil and Gas Association for more than a decade. Ms. Reda has also worked for several oil and gas companies, including CGAS Exploration, Philip Brown Oil Well Services, and Hallwell Energy Omega. Collectively, she has more than 28 years of experience in the crude oil and natural gas industry. Rhonda currently serves on the Public Outreach Committee of the Interstate Oil and Gas Compact Commission and is a board member of the Petroleum History Institute. She is an active member of the Ohio Oil and Gas Association, Independent Petroleum Association of America, Society of Petroleum Engineers, and the Ohio Geological Society. Rhonda Reda served on the White House Task Force on Energy Education and has received numerous state and national awards for OOGEEP's efforts, including Ohio Oil and Gas Association's Oilfield Patriot Award, Southeastern Ohio Oil and Gas Association's Workhorse Award, AAPG Eastern Section's Presidential Award for Public Outreach, Friend of Science Award from the Science Council of Ohio, EPA's Ohio Environmental Education Award for Outstanding Program, World Oil Runner-Up for Best Public Outreach Program, Ohio Department of Natural Resources Minerals Education Award, and the Interstate Oil and Gas Compact Commission's Public Outreach Stewardship Award. Rhonda Reda is a graduate of both Ohio University and Edison State College. Where is that?
Edison State is over in western Ohio.
Oh,
yeah,
I'm not
near
okay.
Above Troy.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. So she lives with her husband of 30 years and has a daughter and a son. And, you know, this is important to us because we're constantly talking about how do we create those jobs to keep our folks here and create opportunities that are dynamic. And David Hill gave our presentation the last time, and it completely turned into how are we going to have the jobs and train people and attract people. We want to thank Zane State College and OOGEEP for sponsoring today. And this recording will be shown on local TV, cable TV, for the following 2 weeks. So we want to get the word out about all the great stuff that Rhonda is going to talk about today. So with that, I'll turn it over to Rhonda Reda.
Thank you so much, Jo. It's always great to be here in Cambridge. I feel like I spend a lot of time over here, and fortunately I do know an awful lot of you here in the audience today. The awards, Jo, that you mentioned, frankly, those are awards really that the industry has won. And they've been doing public outreach. Our organization is now 20 years old this year. So we've been involved in the energy education program for a very long time. Just, I've been talking nonstop for 2 weeks, so my voice is a little bit cloudy this morning. So just a little bit about OOGEEP. We are a nonprofit educational organization, and just because Ohio is in the name, we are not a state agency, and I just want to make that very clear. We are also extremely unique in the country in that there is only one other state that has a program similar to OOGEEP, and that is in Oklahoma. Oklahoma was the first state to do it, and Ohio started this program about 20 years ago. We're a checkoff program. Those of you that are familiar with maybe checkoff programs that the agricultural industry has done, many of you might be more familiar with Milk's campaign, where they put a lot of milk mustaches on celebrities. That's a checkoff program. OOGEEP is a checkoff program as well. Unfortunately, though, we do not think a crude oil mustache would work as well as that milk mustache. what a checkoff program really means is that the industry has elected to fund energy education and public outreach programs on their own. And so they voluntarily assess themselves in order to fund all of the different programs that we do. And again, it comes down to great leadership and an oil and gas industry that really supports education and public outreach. David Hill here is one of our past chairmen of our board of directors and was very instrumental in taking OOGEEP back in 2007 to the next phase and where we are at today. Also, it's very important so that you know we do not engage in public policy or regulation. So we are not a lobbying arm of the oil and gas industry, and I just always like to make that very clear. While we're here to talk about predominantly workforce development, also want you to be aware of other things that we do. And a lot of this has impacted your communities and the surrounding communities here throughout Ohio. We do a lot of research, guest speaker program, community outreach, industry safety and firefighter training, workforce and career development, K-12 educational programs, teacher workshops, scholarships, science fair, scouting programs, and there is a whole lot of other things that we do. So these resources are available to all communities, frankly, throughout Ohio. Our primary focus is going to be in the eastern part of the state. So I know today we're going to kind of focus on workforce, and I thought the easiest thing to do is I used to call this kind of an oil and gas 101 because oftentimes it comes down to terminology. People often do not understand what different career opportunities there are within our industry. Oftentimes when they think of the oil and gas industry, they're only thinking of perhaps that person that works out on a drilling rig. And what they don't realize is that there are over 82 different professions available in our industry, and that's why I provided you with this handout that outlines those 82 different career paths. So I thought I'd go ahead and test everyone's knowledge here first thing this morning and tell me what kind of careers you think are associated with this. Again, it's all about terminology, so here we go. It's commonly thought that Traxling, you guys are very familiar with that in terms of a career path, originated from hoagie schleps. Through time, hoagie schleps was transformed by glutix and Bertoning into Traxling. As the hoagie schleps changed into Traxling, it schnuckled. Huge career path here, okay? Huge. Through headbed soft to the Earth's surface. Sometimes Traxling is trapped by a non-headbed soft called a doxel. These doxels are extremely important in our industry. And it's these underground doxels that are sought by the Traxling industry. Wow. You talk about some really especially new technology here, utilizing Myrtle technology. Certain galactics of Traxling help scientists understand how to get to it. Then the Traxling is studdled, and that's what you're going to see taking place here in Ohio. There's going to be a lot of studdling going on, okay? It's studdled so it can be used for a wide variety of purposes. Everybody on board? Got it? Now you can go out, and we can talk a lot about the different career paths. So again, since it's first thing in the morning, these are actually real terms, okay? So it does come down to vocabulary, and it does come down to educating. So let's see how you guys do here. Can anyone tell me what Traxling is made from?
Natural gas liquids.
Did you say hoagie schleps? I thought you did. That's what I thought you said. You get a drill bit mug. Okay, here's some incentive for you guys. I knew, I thought that's what you said. And can anyone tell me how it got to the Earth's surface? I told you this would be very important.
You snuffled it.
Yeah.
Snuckled it, okay? All right, there we go. Okay, don't get scared yet, okay? This is actually a translation, and again, it comes down to vocabulary. We do this a lot with our teachers throughout the state of Ohio. In fact, we've had 4 large teacher workshops this summer. We've had teachers from all 88 counties. We use a lot of word walls today. They use a lot of word walls today. We can use career word walls. We can use word walls whether it's earth science, whether it is chemistry. So it really does come down to vocabulary and understanding. Does everyone feel a little bit better? And I didn't scare anyone and no one walked out of the room today. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on. And it's very important to understand why we're even talking about workforce development, especially in the field of energy. We're currently using about 100 quadrillion BTUs of energy each year, and that is an enormous number. And let me try and put that in perspective. About 150 years ago is when a chemist by the name of Dr. Kerr was actually summoned from Philadelphia to actually take crude oil and turn it into something called kerosene. And it was kerosene 150 years ago that actually replaced whale oil, even in this part of the country. And that's what started to light up America, okay? The reason why I'm pointing that out is it took us a little over 150 years to go to 100 quadrillion BTUs of energy each year. And those are staggering numbers. Also, it's very important to understand that why I'm here talking about oil and gas, we need all energy sources, okay? We need them all, and we should not rely on any single energy source. So really, we're talking about energy jobs. What's important is it took us over 150 years to go to 100 quadrillion, and in little over a decade, we're going to go from 100 quadrillion to 124 quadrillion BTUs of energy each year. What's driving that? It's technology. The average home today has 3 computers, not to mention all the iPads, PlayStations, Xboxes, cell phones. And I always say the 2 hardest things to explain is, 1, what's going on 4,000 to 14,000 feet underneath the ground, and the fact that energy doesn't come from those 2 little slices in the wall where you plug something in, okay? And that's a very difficult concept, because the only time when people really think about that energy not working when they plug something in is when the power goes out, okay? The important part here is you don't see this energy mix changing a whole lot. And again, our energy demand is absolutely enormous. The United States, we are currently the largest energy consumer in the world. In less than a decade, China is expected to surpass the US in terms of energy consumption. Worldwide energy footprint, I've had some people use this slide and actually say this is where all the drilling rigs are from space. I guarantee you cannot see a drilling rig from space. Okay, the lights just are not that bright. What this really is this is a picture of where we have access to great energy. In the United States, that's something we have. That's why our life expectancy is so high. That is why we have clean water. That's why we have access to good health care. Other parts of the world, I mean, it's still hard to believe that some people use the restroom, do their laundry, and clean their dishes all in the exact same water. Okay, we do not. But that's really what this photo from NASA actually points out. So what's going on here in Ohio? If you are not familiar with an organization by the name of Shale Crescent USA, get familiar with these folks. Get familiar with their website. Get familiar with all of the things that Shale Crescent is doing right now to bring manufacturing back into the state of Ohio, bringing manufacturing back into this region. And it's just an enormous effort. So I do want to share a couple of statistics that came out of Shale Crescent USA. The Marcellus and Utica shales, which lay over Ohio, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia, are the largest natural gas reserves in the entire United States. It is very important for you to understand these statistics in order for us to talk about workforce development. The potential productive area, okay, just to put that into perspective, that's about the size of Germany, okay? If Ohio, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia were a country, and I'm not advocating that, okay, we today would be the third largest natural gas producer in the world. We did not see this coming 10 years ago. The Marcellus and Utica Shale, located obviously in northeastern the United States, is projected to account for 35% of the U.S. production by 2020. What year is it? Okay, that is what is going on in this area. Locally, why is it important to try and drive, in addition to oil and gas workforce development, we need to be prepared for the workforce development, especially in manufacturing and the petrochemical industry. What is attracting them to this area is that natural gas prices, number one, have declined 60% in the last 5 years. We have a lot of natural gas. We also have the lowest natural gas prices, and this is an important statistic, in the industrialized world. When manufacturers want to come into this area, they are looking at their energy costs, and I will tell you, they're also checking out the workforce. Do we have workforce? More importantly, do we have educational and training facilities? And the answer to both of those is yes. Are we drilling fewer wells today? It's a question that comes up. And I hear this term boom and bust, and I really dislike that term a lot, because those typically come from people that really don't understand our industry. Last year, we drilled and completed 353 wells. But what most people don't realize is back in 1983, we drilled over 6,000 wells in the state of Ohio in a single year, and most people didn't even know about it. Okay, those were crazy days, weren't they, David? Okay, Sherry. 6,000 wells. So yes, we're drilling fewer wells today. We're drilling smarter wells, and bigger production is coming out of these wells. I mean, just phenomenal what's going on. If the drilling portion slows down, as it has in the last couple of years, predominantly driven by commodity prices, does not mean these wells are not producing. Does not mean product is not going to market. Does not mean that that natural gas is not going into homes and businesses. So people don't really understand our industry when they call this boom and bust. So the answer is, it did not, a slowdown in drilling did not mean a decline in production. And let me put a couple of statistics into perspective for you. Back in 2011, and this was prior to drilling in two geological formations known as the Utica Shale and the Marcellus Shale, we had about 50,000 other wells in the state of Ohio. That year, we produced 4.9 million barrels of crude oil, which was a good number. We also produced about 73 billion cubic feet of natural gas. In 2011, that natural gas satisfied about 20% of Ohio's natural gas needs. Fast forward 6 years, just 6 years. There was almost 1,900 wells drilled in just the Utica and Marcellus formations. Those 1,900 wells produced 16 million barrels of crude oil, 1.7 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. Is that a bust? I certainly don't think so. Okay? So again, you got to be very careful when you hear terms like that. What does this mean? Is we are now satisfying the state of Ohio more than 100% of our natural gas needs, and we are starting to become an exporter of natural gas to our sister states. And that's incredible. I don't think anybody ever saw that coming, especially in this region. Why do we have oil and gas development in the first place? Okay, I'm not going to get into a whole geology lesson. That's what David Hill's for. He is the expert in geology. Very simply put, we were covered by ocean, a good part of the state. And if you look at where the oil and gas development is, whether it's Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, this is what Ohio looked like 385 million years ago. So this predominantly old plant and animal, more specifically marine life, got buried, okay? And depending on the geological formation and the geological time table, it turned into either crude oil or natural gas. That's why we have oil and gas development. For us, the oil and gas industry, our workforce training has to begin K through 12. That is why we have ramped up the number of STEM workshops that we put on each year, and we have added an additional geology workshop to our program. This curriculum was developed by teachers to make sure that it meets their state and national science standards. We also do related field trips. It might be out to, Dominion's compressor station. And I know you guys Dominion helped fund a number of the videos that the teachers wanted associated with this. This is an opportunity that is available to all your teachers. We've had over 3,000 teachers, again, from all 88 counties. It is about building a foundation, and you guys hear this word STEM, or sometimes STEAM. Okay, STEAM, they've added the A for arts. We're really focused on the STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. And that fits our industry, every single one of these areas. It also fits our workforce. Okay? Today, a diesel mechanic needs to learn how to look at blueprints. Okay? I always think of them sometimes as a pre-engineer. Interesting fact is, according to the World Economic Forum, the U.S. now ranks 52nd in the world in science and math initiatives. That's a problem. Okay? That's a big problem when it comes to workforce. Science, technology, engineering, math. Okay? Energy workforce development, as I've been saying, is very crucial. And a lot of these are cross-disciplines into many other industries as well. Some of them are very specific to oil and gas, but many of them can be cross-disciplined into other industries. A couple major factors impacting our workforce today. We have an aging and retiring workforce. Okay? I finally went over the 50 mark. Woohoo! Okay? And it's pretty scary oftentimes when you are still considered one of the youngest. Okay? However, I have to say, we are starting to see a lot more young people coming into the industry, but we missed a couple generations. Okay? We just missed a couple of generations. We have to put an emphasis on the trades. That's where the jobs are. And we have done a terrible disservice, and again, it's not just our industry, but in general, as we have told everyone they must go on and get a 4-year degree. The demand is in the trades. It's the trades, it's the trades, it is the trades. Okay, extremely important. A statistic that I found out last week at a conference I was at with career and technical colleges from around the state is only 21% of high school seniors that go on to college will actually get a 4-year degree. Many will drop out after the first year or just simply never get that degree. What do we do with this 79%? And if the demand is in the trades, why are we not focusing more on the trades? Okay? And I have to tell you, that is one thing that the state of Ohio has. We've got great educational programs in the state of Ohio, whether it be in the trades or in your degree programs. And then finally, a big message, and this is not a local issue, it's not a county issue, it's not a statewide issue, it's a national issue. Okay? Everybody deserves a second chance. Okay? However, we've got to do something to address the drug problem. And I don't think anybody has the answer to that. Depending on the size of the company, the last time we surveyed, and again, the bigger the company versus a small company, it does make a big difference. It was anywhere from 20 to 80% failing drug tests. Okay? In our industry, it's unacceptable. Okay? And we will drug test, period. Job opportunities by occupation, about 63% of the total job opportunities are going to be in the trades. And again, we really, really need to focus a lot more time on that. So what has the oil and gas industry done? Well, number one, we created a career guide. And we created this career guide about 5 years ago. And the career guide just lists the 92 different professions, gave a job description. And then we were handing it out to students. Well, unfortunately, that wasn't enough. So from there, what we did is we also created just the career guide. It made it a little bit simpler for them to go down and take a look at it. Then we created this career guide. And I've got a few more of these up there on the table. We are in the process of redoing these, okay? Just so that you know. What does that career guide, whoops. So let's say somebody wants to be a welder. Okay, this career guide serves two purposes. One, for a student, he can say, I want to be a welder. And these are the qualified training programs in Ohio that offer welding. For the oil and gas industry, the company says, we need welders. Here are the qualified training programs that I need to partner with. That's the goal of this book. Okay? So it's not only for guidance counselors, students, young adults, or adults, but it's a tool also for our industry. And then the scholarships. One thing about the scholarship program, we started the scholarship program in 2007. We gave out 7 scholarships. Every one of those scholarships went to 4-year degree programs. Well, wait a minute, if we're talking about the trades, why are we not supporting scholarship opportunities in the trades? This year, we gave out 62 scholarships, okay? And 35% of those went to trades. It could have been a certificate program. It could be a 1-year degree, a 2-year degree program, or other things that we looked at. We have to support the trades, okay? Also, what we have found out is those just going for maybe a certificate program, there's very little financial aid opportunities for them, okay? So again, if we're talking about the trades and we're pushing a lot of the careers in the trades as an oil and gas industry, we also have to support it. So that's a big jump from 7 scholarships all the way to 62. This is that career guide that I just mentioned. And again, it was just a short description of all of the different careers. Here gives you an example of that career guide. And again, there's 92 of these. These will also, we're in the process of updating them on the website as well. And then again, the scholarship. The scholarship every year, January 1st through March 1st. So they've got 2 months to submit. Our scholarship committee typically meets in April. Okay, so if you know any students, please get them in touch with us. And I'll tell you the other thing, we were at the Ohio State Fair this week. We actually won the People's Choice for the Best Education Exhibit. 30 feet of exhibit, predominantly young kids digging with fossils. and really walking them through science, technology, engineering, and math activities. You know who helped us at the state fair? Our scholarship winners. Okay? Great opportunity for them to then start talking to other young people about careers in the industry. Also, what's new, and you guys are some of the first groups to see this, is we've just spent the last 3 years working on a career video series. We partnered with the American Petroleum Institute on that because we did need some financial support. Putting together career videos is extremely expensive. And what I will tell you is the American Petroleum Institutes, who set standards for the industry, the reason why they were interested in funding and let OOGEEP do the project is they want to take it nationwide. The neat thing about it, all of this was shot in Ohio. And Ohio is going to be showcased across the country. Frankly, my only interest was getting these videos done for Ohio. So first off, what we did is we created what we call a career sizzle. And we even did focus groups, and we picked out the sound depending on maybe what interested kids. So I want to show you the career sizzle video first. It's a lot of careers to get through. So then what we also did is we created career clusters. Now that's just kind of what we call a sizzle or kind of a teaser for people to see, wow, there are a lot of different types of careers. And then what we also did was created some individual career videos. These can be used by companies. These can be, frankly, used by educational institutions if you've got a program. Maybe it's a diesel mechanic program and you want to use these videos, you're welcome to. Jobs Ohio has an interest in them. Department of Education has an interest in them because they're just explaining the different careers. So the career clusters, some of them are single, like welding and welder helper is one career video instead of two. Okay? We also created some generic engineering. I mean, there's 14 different engineers needed. There's 11 different types of technicians. So we also created some career clusters. And I just want to give you a sample of a couple of them.
Did you know there are more than 75 different careers in the natural gas and oil industry?
Really?
Yes, and if you like variety in your job,
Well, I mean, who doesn't like that?
including being able to work inside or outside,
I don't mind working outside.
then you might be a great fit for a diesel mechanic.
What do they do?
Well, a diesel mechanic ensures that multi-million-dollar pieces of equipment run safely and efficiently. You'll perform a wide range of duties, from routine maintenance to advanced repair operations.
I do like taking things apart and putting them back together.
And because most of today's diesel engines have computer modules, you'll get to work with cutting-edge technology.
Oh, computers. Wow, I love computers.
Diesel mechanics are detail-oriented, and they're knowledgeable in small and heavy equipment drivetrain components, electrical and hydraulic systems.
That sounds great.
You may have never realized working in the natural gas and crude oil industry could offer such a rewarding career.
I didn't know it could be that exciting.
With a high school diploma, additional training and education, plus experience, these jobs can lead to an excellent salary salary with benefits.
Okay, I'll take both of those.
If you're excited to learn how you can become a diesel mechanic, talk to your school or career counselor or visit the Career and Workforce section at OOGEEP.org.
Thanks. Now I need to check this out right now.
Again, the voiceovers, the young man's voiceover, kids are more familiar with him because he's actually does a bunch of the voiceovers on Nickelodeon. So it's actually somebody that, they're familiar with. And again, I remember our audience on a lot of these career videos.
Did you know there are more than 75 different careers in the natural gas and oil industry?
That's interesting.
It sure is. And if solving problems, being creative, and making a difference in the world sounds like something you'd like to do, then you should think about becoming an engineer.
That sounds awesome. Tell me more.
Engineers are necessary to produce the power we use, clean the water we drink, and make the thousands of products we use every day, from cell phones to medicines. Engineers use both science and math to identify, research, and then solve real problems. They are also creators, builders, explorers, designers, and innovators. They often take an idea that exists only on paper and turn it into something that we can use, and in some cases, can't live without.
What kind of engineers are you talking about?
Well, there are many different types of engineers. A petroleum engineer is responsible for creating the plans that allow workers to construct and stimulate or hydraulically fracture the wells to safely bring natural gas and oil out of the ground. A civil or mechanical engineer will design the well pads and equipment necessary to produce, store, and transport the product. And water system engineers will create facilities for the management of water associated with drilling and production operations.
Wow, there are a lot of engineers.
Wait, that's not all either. Environmental engineers work to ensure the process occurs safely and efficiently. Facility and electrical engineers will then design and build the factories and machinery necessary to produce those products. And finally, a chemical engineer will transform the natural gas and oil molecules into products we use every day.
It sounds like engineers enjoy a variety of challenges.
Definitely. And engineers are needed by virtually every industry today. With the right amount of education, experience, and expertise, you can earn a terrific salary with opportunities in multiple fields and industries.
So how do I learn more?
If you want to learn more about beginning a career as an engineer, talk to your school or career counselor or visit the Career and Workforce section at OOGEEP.org.
Thanks. I really appreciate all of this great information.
One of the reasons why I wanted to put the engineer one up there as well is from there, like a petroleum engineer, within petroleum engineer, it's got its own video. And there's 5 more different types of engineers within petroleum engineer. And David, I'm sorry I didn't put the geologist up there. I should have thought about my audience here. They are going to be completely up. Give us about another 2 weeks. And what we're hoping to have is the career guide done. That'll be up there. And then all these videos. And again, we've also posted them on YouTube. Okay, they are already on YouTube. So if you want to use those for your own purposes, they're already there. Okay, and we figured YouTube would be an easier link for a lot of people, and YouTube's really not blocked in schools the way it used to be. I know we used to put everything on TeacherTube, but now, really TeacherTube's no longer there. Everyone's really using YouTube for a lot of different videos. It comes down to collaboration. That's why we're all here. That's why we're all talking about it. And it's not just industry, it's the education community. Okay, it is civic leaders. It is community leaders, and it's certainly governmental officials. And I love this Henry Ford quote because to me it just fits this topic. If everyone's moving forward together, then success takes care of itself. And it's just very important that we have very, very good collaboration, especially when we're talking about the potential, and now we're talking about really the potential of not just the oil and gas industry, but the potential of bringing back petrochemical industry as well as manufacturing industry into this area. Again, we also have that aging workforce, okay, and that is a big concern for our industry. So, with that, is everybody ready to go schnuckle? Some headbed sobs, right? What questions do you have? One of the things I just follow up kind of to your question is starting last year, and we are trying to put together something for the 2018-19 school year. It is now a requirement, which I love, frankly, that in every middle school they must include a career component now. Typically, that wait it until high school. And oftentimes kids do not really think about careers maybe until junior or senior year. And I will tell you, probably in October, November at the latest, we are also going to be putting on a large event for all of our educational facilities that offer training, as well as guidance counselors. We're hoping to pull that off in October as part of National Energy Awareness Month. We think it'd be a really good time to have all these materials completely up to date. So in your own communities, if your schools are working on career days, now we don't do job fairs because my organization is not one of the companies necessarily that's going to be hiring, but career fairs is something that we do a lot of.
To piggyback, so I'm Anthony with Zane State. And I was talking to a mutual friend of ours at Energy in Depth about the fact that we have, and this was the conversation last month, was that we have a number of jobs existing in the area that are unfilled, that require people to come from Mississippi and Colorado. And we're having a hard time getting the outreach in this region that the jobs exist. I mean, you've got the training guide to show that whether any of the career centers or technical colleges in the area offer the training, but we're lacking the ability to connect the students and the families that, yes, invest a year, 2 years, 4 years, whatever that amount of time is to get that skill. That connection is lacking. And how can we do a better job in this region of inspiring the community that we can fill these jobs and not rely on people from outside the state?
I think it goes back to the collaboration. For a lot of these jobs in the oil and gas business, you just cannot operate certain things. I mean, you can't operate in a state, okay? Maybe a drilling crew might come in, but, look at you're dealing with a $50 million piece of equipment too. That training does not happen overnight. But I think, going back to what you said, I think it goes back to collaboration. I'm thrilled at the middle school. And I think what we can do is maybe put together, coordinate some events at our local middle schools, invite the parents in. One of the best career events we did was up in northeastern Ohio. And what they did is they had an entire career day, but the parents had to come in. Not only that, before the parents and students walked through and learned about the different careers, they all had to sit down and take a career assessment. And the parents took the career assessment with their student. So even, let's say, they want their son or daughter to be that geologist. Well, guess what? The career assessment said they should be a welder and a diesel mechanic. And what that did is it helped the parents, instead of the parents guiding them, it kind of came off of some of that career assessment. And then the way it was set up was based on the discipline. And then in addition to that, then you had the local educational institutions there, and then other people talking about scholarships. I think we need to be doing more of those types of events, especially here. And again, it just takes collaboration. And so I'm kind of excited about the new requirement for middle school because, again, most kids really don't get much time with their guidance counselors, unfortunately. And oftentimes some of that is limited to if they're going on to college, not in all cases. So I think we need to start talking about careers earlier, and we need to get the parents engaged. And if it is a trade path, that's fantastic. Think about industrial arts, or it used to be called workshop, okay? There's a mindset that we need to get rid of. When I think of an industrial arts class, that's really a pre-engineering course. I mean, that's what it is. So we also have to change some perceptions in some of the jobs. Again, selfishly for the oil and gas industry, it's that perception that you're only on a drilling rig. You know?
I think the thing you said about the parent-student connection is amazing because, well, I'm the one that said last time that I think the problem is that there's not, for the Crescent Shale thing, I said that there's not that connection of getting, people need to get the fever for their job and that paycheck. So my question is, during the training for the age group 16, 18, 20, what's the process of the training? Because you showed the groups of the teachers that were involved in the training for the younger. I come from restaurant management, and that age group is a whole different, and I should also put out the disclaimer that I don't have children. Okay, first of all. Because I would be managing these employees and get calls from their parents about you're being too tough on my child or whatever, and I'm like, you don't know what your child is like as an employee. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
I would be hugely beneficial to you knowing what kind of employee your child is so that you can help them when it comes to being an employee. Or, they were a fantastic student but a terrible employee. So those types of connections, I think, are pretty amazing. The other side of that is I want to know what your rules are for training that you're allowed to put a financial side to the training so that there might be a drive financially to get involved in, a specific area.
I mean, I think, number one, going back to the parents, absolutely. Soft skills, I know a lot, soft skills are really important. I don't know a job out there today that doesn't require some kind of communications. Unfortunately, communicating like this doesn't work, okay?
I also have a psychology major,
Okay.
and I used more psychology as a restaurant manager than I think if I had been a counselor.
Yeah.
Like trying to, figure all that out.
I mean, it's work ethics. In our case, many of these jobs are outside. They need to know up front that it's going to be outside. If they don't want to work outside, then they shouldn't apply for that job, okay? So, I mean, soft skills, communications involving the parents, where possible, it's really what we need to do, but it's also easier said than done. Okay, because you can put on the best career day events, and if you don't have people show up, and to me, especially the parents that show up. And I'm sorry, what was the second part of your question?
The financial.
The financial, I mean, if you think about many of these jobs, and some of these, you're also talking about union and non-union positions. In many times, we've got great apprenticeship programs in there where the kids will get paid. That training is free to them. I think that many times one of the challenges I know we've heard from many schools is also that some of the kids are getting hired before they're getting their certificate or their degree because we have such a big demand. So that makes their numbers look really bad. But that's how desperate for some of these workers. You're shaking your head. I mean, so that's always a challenge as well.
I didn't know if there were specific guidelines that you were not allowed to show the financial, like during the training process, like this job, your potential.
You should. You should.
That would grab people.
And it varies depending on company. I mean, that's the hard thing about assigning a salary, because it really depends on the company. And it depends on the particular job. So you can't say coming out of school, you will make this, because honestly, that one is a really hard one because it really does depend. You get a welder today, they're making pretty good money coming right out of school. Wall Street Journal did a fantastic article about welders, six-figure numbers. Okay? It's a pretty nice job. comes with experience. I mean, you don't walk out and get that. And I think that's the other thing is people also expect when they get a job, they expect to be making these enormous salaries without putting in any time. We've all put in time, okay? And you don't get to the top or move on overnight. And oftentimes, when you're interviewing, what are the first questions that are asked? How many vacation days do I get? Okay? If that's your first question, I'm not interested. Okay? I want you to be asking me about the particular position. Then we'll get to benefits later. Okay? Because I want you to be interested in that job. So. Yes, ma'am.
I used to be in adult education.
Good.
And had very good experiences with ex-offenders.
Yeah.
Started school in Lincoln, and came out and matriculated on, became a very good employee. Have you worked with Department of Corrections at all? Training in the
That's actually one of the statements I made earlier is I said everybody deserves a second chance. And so ironically, even at a couple of our teacher workshops over the last couple of weeks, a couple of the teachers were in corrections. And again, some of these are very minor infractions in some cases. And so, yeah, I mean, it's very important. Veterans is another group. It's very important because typically, again, it goes back to work ethics, ability to work outside, things like that. But absolutely, it's just another connection. And so I will say that the outreach is there, and that has been a relatively recent outreach. So,
If I can add to that, I'll say anecdotally, before I came to Zane State, Katie may know a little bit about it. The college did have previous success with Belmont Correctional Institute, but there was grant funding that came from some foundation somewhere that provided it so that they were able to go into the jail, train them, ironically, for welding. And that it did have success with the recidivism because they had a job, and so therefore there was an incentive not to get in trouble anymore. So I don't know if that's something that OOGEEP is considering or something, but it does have a track record of success.
OOGEEP, we don't do grants. I mean, we just don't have that kind of funding to do grants. But again, there's always a starting point anywhere, and I like, at least where we've started with some of these. These are the teachers that have been through. There were a total of 4 over the last 2 months from different parts of the state, and all 4 of them ran kind of high school programs. And so the challenge, though, that they had is that the kids might only be there a month and out, or 2 months. I mean, it was just like a rotating door constantly. So it's not like a normal setup where somebody comes in and they're going to be in a program, they're going to be there for 6 months. And so that's the other challenge, at least that we heard, is because that is a constantly rotating, which again is its own set of challenges in itself. But
Anything else? Super exciting. It's super exciting. It just really is. And I think that all those videos and really looking into how kids think now and all that is really where it's at, because the way that we used to watch little videos in school and with the project, I mean, I don't need to tell how old I am, but, they roll in all the equipment and watch the videos. That's just not going to work.
Yeah.
It's not, it's got to be more live and exciting. And
hey, I still have slides and overheads. So there we go. I mean, that was, pretty modern. Is there, from any of our industry folks, is there anything you guys want to add to the conversation or challenges, or not to put you on the spot, but?
It goes back to what you said. I've been banging on the table for 10 years. Mamas, please let your babies grow up to be welders. and that doesn't preclude a 2-year or 4-year degree,
Right.
or an advanced degree, an MBA in finance or engineering. It's just that mindset. The one thing I focused, I heard you say it, but I will reiterate, this is a safety consciousness that has to come from home. Right? We provide all of the personal protective equipment that you can possibly need, but you have to use it appropriately. You have to wear your safety glasses. You have to not text while you're driving. Those are the things, when we talk about parent involvement, those are the things that need to be happening in the home, so when they come to a job, they're ready-made.
Yeah.
Showing up for work on time, you talk about work ethic. Safety is part of that in this industry. and I'll go so far as to say, all of the trades. And it's a tough one.
Yeah.
Because it's not enough to just put your seatbelt on. You have to be mindful of all the other rules. And, the restaurant business, you know that. They make it burns. They're playing around. They're not paying attention. So, and I know you cover that. You all cover that in the teacher workshops.
Yeah.
Rhonda, do you find finite generational differences? I mean, we're all talking about millennials all the time, and can you address that? What are you seeing out there with kids and their work ethic and their passion for work, or not wanting to work, being lazy, not showing up? What do you see with that?
Well, I'll use my 2 kids as an example, and they're both millennials, and they get tired of being blamed for everything. But, there's a lot of things we can blame on them. I'm saying that jokingly. Work ethics have definitely changed a lot. I look at my father, I look at my grandfather. I'm just using personal, and I think that this can relate just about to anybody. People worked for a company for 25 or 30 years and they retired from it. And you put in a hard day's work. And today people are jumping jobs every couple years. Okay? And that's a challenge for an employer, because every employer is making an investment, huge investment. And you're investing in a lot of training, maybe personal protective equipment that's needed. You're making a huge investment, and you're just seeing, people not as loyal anymore. And we're just seeing a lot of that changing. But, work ethics is tough. I was joking again because, again, I'm tease my kids about it all the time, but that millennial, it's not in all cases. And that's, what I've told my own kids. If you say, how many vacation days do I get and what are my benefits, if those are the first couple questions you ask, okay, I know that's important. It's important to all of us. But I think people need to have work ethics, and I think they need to understand the job that they're going into, because hopefully we want them to make a career out of it. And we want them to be employed for, frankly, for a long time.
Well, I see a lot of talk about, we have to adjust how we do things to the millennial. But I also hear we got to teach the millennials what our expectations are and quit catering to them.
Yeah. And again, I think some of that comes back to home as well. Because you can't hand them things just to babysit them. Okay? Electronics just to babysit them. Make kids do chores again. Okay? Make them earn an allowance again. So some of that comes back to home too. And I think my personal opinion is you typically build good work ethics by observation. And whether it's a parent, a guardian, a grandparent, an aunt, an uncle, oftentimes that's where it comes from. Go out and do the community service as well. One of the things when we were interviewed at the state fair this week, why are you having the scholarship kids here? 1, so that they could get young kids excited. 2, it's never too early to teach kids, and I don't care what company they go to work for, about how important it is to be involved in your community and that you need to give back to your community. So even little things like volunteering a lot, believe it or not, those things bring in good work ethics. So it's a tough question. You know, millennials, Gen X, it's a tough question. And we're seeing such a gap, again, specific in the oil and gas industry, although I don't think we're really any different because of losing a couple generations. And so we've got a very different, maybe at times different mindset because we've lost those couple in the middle. So we've got this group, and then we've got, you know, maybe our millennials and our Gen X group in here. Yes, sir.
Rhonda, I guess partial a little bit to veterans. I wondered, you mentioned them earlier. In our workforce policy board, the question has popped up a lot where you have a guy or gal who's gone through 6 years of military, they come out with they've driven, we use a tanker, they've driven a fuel tanker for 6 years. They come out of the military and the companies require, we need 2 years experience before we can hire you. And I think someone who's driven a fuel tank in Afghanistan probably encountered a few things we're not going to have to worry about here. And yet there doesn't seem to be, and I may be wrong, maybe I'm missing it, but there's not a way that, I mean, there's a lot more skills beyond CDL. There's a lot of trades taught in the military which are easily transferable with maybe a 6-week training or whatever it would take to bring veterans into the workforce. They're already trained, they're already working, I mean, their work ethic is there, but we're having them be unemployed for 2 years while we train them to do what they've already done.
You're 100% correct. And there's been a lot of discussions on that. So you have somebody that has been trained as a welder in the military, but they come back, technically, they didn't get a 1-year or 2-year degree. Welder helpers, normally a certificate program. So why doesn't that experience, especially military experience, count? I agree with you, it should. And all I can tell you is that has been raised a number of different times. And I don't know what the answer is, but I know that there's a lot of people working on that, as they should. Because I think it would make it a lot easier, especially if a position requires a 2-year welding degree. They really have the equivalent, if not more. So I agree with you 100%. Right. It's an important workforce.
Also, sir, I'm assuming you're a veteran? Thank you for your service, first of all. And that was my dream every time I had anyone ex-military come in and sit in front of me for a job. Because I'm like, yes, they already know how to get up in the morning to an alarm. Or whatever they got up to. A uniform, already knew about that. Already knew how to deal with authority. You know, I didn't have to say everything in the special way of saying it sometimes. And the sense of urgency, you know, there's so many qualities there that are already ahead of the game, you know, so that's, I 100% agree with that. And that's awesome that you're looking into that.
This is a great resource, by the way.
Please note that that is getting ready to be updated. You know, what's interesting is even if you see in our videos, we just finished that series, as we were going through it, and again, working with so many employers, that's why I said, we're actually at 82 careers. What I will tell you also in the book, we're currently working with 92. That number of different colleges, universities, tech schools, career centers, that number will go over 100. So this will be completely getting redone, and again, you know, this one will be done probably in the next 30 to 60 days. So, well, thank you guys so much. It's always an honor speaking here, Joe. Thank you so much for the invitation. I greatly appreciate it.